What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. It's the Hoffman Show on a Wednesday. I don't know why that felt rushed. Hi, everybody. It's the Hoffman Show on a Wednesday, streaming live on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. Of course, our podcast. If you like this here program, but you're not going to be able to listen to the whole thing, yes, you can on your time. Check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We are live on YouTube as well at the Team 980, where I would go to the two shop, but Ben Strober is very much. Everybody, look, it's the side of Ben Strober's face.
Strobe's hijacking the show, Craig.
I mean, bro, we had you in all last week. Anthony's back. He's not in Europe anymore. What are we doing?
I missed it. I had to come back for more.
I totally understand that. Great job on the Russell show today. I guess I'm not going to pretend that I listened to the whole thing. But you guys made it to the end, and sometimes on that show, that's the survival.
Took more calls than I ever have in my life.
Yeah, we're going to take some too today at 301-230-0980. It's the same exact thing that Russell was taking them about. And it's pretty simple. What do you think of the new uniforms? Because I've seen basically universal praise for the Commanders' new old threads. We knew this was coming today. They announced, what was it, a week ago or so, that today is the day, July 9th, that they would unveil the new threads. We knew that the logo on the helmet would stay the same because they kind of teased that in the preview. And then, sure enough, this morning, it was kind of funny being on social media, and everybody's like, oh, where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Like, everybody's refreshing everything, and then all of a sudden, bang, they drop. And it's exactly pretty much what the old uniforms used to be. And the exception is the helmet. Obviously, there's a couple of touches missing. The old name is not there because that's not what they're called anymore. I do think it's interesting, Anthony, that the Commanders isn't, like the name Commanders isn't anywhere on. But, like, that's what it means to have a brand. Like, when you see the Air Jordan logo, it doesn't matter what color it's in. It doesn't matter if it says Air Jordan. But, like, you know the Jumpman. Like, that is a brand. Even, forget the Jumpman. That swoosh, you know that's Nike. There are certain things, if you see any kind of Argyle with the light blue, you know, and that specific light blue, you know that's the University of North Carolina. Like, rare is a color combination in pro sports where you're like, oh, like I think the Dolphins have it. Miami's like color combo is pretty unique. Beyond that, like I'm sure there's others that are kind of really, really unique. Like, I think of some of the great brands in sports, but like the Cowboys and the Yankees kind of have the same color of navy-ish blue. Like I'm sure they have different shades, and the people at Sherwin-Williams / the people in the branding departments of the Cowboys and Yankees would be very upset that I don't know that one is insert fancy color name here and the other's insert other fancy color name. But like the burgundy and gold is so iconic that it doesn't need anything else. Everyone knows exactly what that jersey is. Which team it is. And, unlike, say, the star for the Cowboys or, pick a logo for another team, it is the colorway to the point that we call the team the burgundy and gold. Like, that's the thing. We had the show that was like burgundy and gold today. Doc was talking about the heyday. Yeah, back when I was in the burgundy and gold. Like, it's an identifying characteristic. And so to bring that back, to me, is like A+. Don't mess with it. And some of the details in terms of like the font with the name on the back, that was very distinct back in the day. They kept it slightly upgraded in terms of clarity, whatever. Just made it the sharper, more modern version, but the same font pretty much that they used to have. It's really good. And I think the bigger thing is, for me, like the thing that actually matters here as much as the uniforms. I know for some people this matters. Well, I'll speak for myself. This, to me, matters way more than the uniforms. I know for some people, the uniforms themselves are a huge deal because you grew up with them. I didn't, both by age and where I grew up. So, putting that aside, as an analyst, the fact that, and as a talk show host, the fact that the ownership group is awake and that they are in tune, Anthony, with the fan base. They are like, hello, we are paying attention. We hear you. There are certain things that some of you want that we can't do, that others of you want that we can't do. And that could be whether it's name, logos, feathers. And again, like those are very divisive. But I think the thing that pretty much everybody agrees upon is this color scheme. So we're going to do that. And on that level, we're going to make everyone happy. We're going to continue to find ways to honor the past of the good parts of this organization. We're not going to have a lot to say about the 25 plus years that Dan Snyder was in charge because almost nothing good happened. And that's how we're going to roll. And to be smart, responsive, to get it right, to be tasteful, to do all of the things in the right way. The rollout is excellent. I will say just real quickly, I know that Terry McLaurin is missing from all of this in the rollout. My guess is because he hasn't been there for the photo shoots. It's hard to include him when he's holding out. I'm guessing a lot of these photo shoots happened at Media Day, and there were no leaks, no nothing, which is great. They've been holding on to these photos for a couple of weeks, but you can't put Terry in the new uniform and have him as a part of the rollout if he's not there for mandatory minicamp, because he's not physically there. You're not going to send him one and be like, hey, man, set up your iPhone. Take a selfie. No. So with all that said, outside of the fact that one of your star players is missing from the rollout for a totally understandable reason, it's an A+. So the team and the ownership group and everybody gets an A+, and they get a total pass on the Terry part of it, but it does kind of suck that he's not in these photos. I'm sure they will get him in a uniform and take his photo as soon as he is back for training camp in August, and then he will be a part of future promotions for these new unis. So that's my uniform spiel, Anthony. You've been a longtime fan. You grew up here. You were psyched this morning.
I was excited to see the new unis. And I think you hit on it earlier where you were just talking about, the burgundy and brand being the brand itself, and, that, telling everybody like who we are kind of thing. And sometimes it's just okay to, sometimes less is more kind of a thing. And I think that's what we get out of these uniforms because, again, we don't have all the crazy, helmets and crazy colors, designs, and things of that nature. It's pretty simple and basic to me. And I think sometimes that can just be good enough itself. And I think there's just a lot of history also just with going back to, the glory days and reliving that and kind of being in tune with it. And I think Josh Harris and company, they just understood, they understood the assignment and they understood, the fan base and what we wanted. And they made that dream come true. So
they didn't need to reimagine the old uniforms.
Yeah.
They needed to reproduce the old uniforms as close as they could with the name being Commanders and with a different logo, because the current logo of the team and the current name of the team are different than the old logo and the old name. I'm not here to argue about those things. I'm not doing that show today, and I'm never doing that show again. Not because there's not a difference of opinion and that I'm like, woohoo, they actually got it right. They've said they're done with that. This is what the team is called. This is what the logo, I think. We'll see if they change the logo eventually, if they come up with something different. But the W with the Washington Monument in the middle, the block W, that's actually they don't even have, they have a version of it with the Washington Monument in the middle. But the standard one doesn't even have it. The one that's on the helmet doesn't even have it. So this is the W is it. But with that stuff off the table, I'm curious what folks think. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Commanders got new uniforms, so the same as the old uniforms. You happy about it? Your calls next. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. What you think? Commanders' new uniforms, same as the old uniforms, except for slightly different because they're the Commanders now. As Doug Williams, Anthony, I don't know if you ever heard this, but he famously once said,
"We are the Commanders."
And then Craig Melvin laughed.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd say this rollout better than that rollout.
I think so too.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? What people might not remember about the 2-2-22, for good reason, this is not saying the people are wrong. This is what people might not remember is they actually did a bunch of like really cool, like their social media department did a great job with a bunch of cool historic videos. And then I believe it was a Dan Snyder production that was like, yeah, no, we're going to do it on the Today Show. And there was no plan. It also allowed / kind of required NBC to be like, yeah, we're a journalism outfit. By the way, this all comes amidst the fact that your owner is under congressional investigation and your organization is at a toxic workplace and there seems to be some tax issues here. Like they highlighted all the bad stuff and then we're like, and they're changing their name. All right, it's time. Doug Williams, what's the thing?
We are the Commanders.
And poor Doug has to go out there and drop that, and then Craig Melvin's like, and that's all anyone remembers. You had a chance to control the narrative, and you botched it. Here, they put out a teaser a week out. They say, I think they did a good job of like leaving breadcrumbs in certain places that everyone kind of had the right expectations. And then they hit the ball out of the park with the actual branding, something they also failed to do the first time around. Let's take calls on this, though. How are you feeling with the new alternate uniforms? Which, by the way, I saw Albert Breer say that they might be the full-time uniforms starting next year. So it's that would be similar to what the Jets did a couple years ago. A couple of games of alternate with the old school throwbacks, and then reintroducing them full-time. So we'll see if there's any more news on that over the next weeks and months as well. 301-230-0980 is the phone number, though. Let's go to Meal. Meal, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show. All right, hold on. Anthony's waving. Anthony, do you need to put them up? Okay.
Again, to be honest.
All right, Meal, sorry about that. We got you now. That was my fault. I hit a wrong button. But go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for taking my call. Once again, I was very excited this morning to actually see those colors again, man. Like I said, being from that 30-plus group, age group, and like I said, seeing those old videos, and I remember like the Jason Campbell days, the McNabb days, and just seeing that uniform is just that burgundy and gold, those solid colors. Like I said, it's like you were saying at the beginning of the show, Craig. Like UNC when you see those colors, the Jumpman when you see that, the Nike sign when you see it, right? And that how that saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, I'm glad they fixed those colors because it's nothing like we're not the most, we ain't Dallas and got the stars and, and all of that other stuff. But it's something about those bold two colors and let alone with that clean white. I mean, it sets the tone. And at the same time, these are those colors that we won Super Bowls in. And, don't get me wrong. I nothing wrong with the colors we did have, but it's just something about those colors that screams Commanders. And I will just leave with this final thought. It's a touch of throwback with a little bit of new. That's how I'm feeling. And I'm just so excited to see that these uniforms, and they're going to be pre-sale. So I don't know if anybody went on NFL.com and just kind of like wanted, to get like a pre-sale before they actually drop. But I'm one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Mio, I think that's such a good way to put it. Thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. It's a throwback with a touch of new. It's updated. It feels current, right? It's 2025. And the thing is, like, the Washington Post did polling last year as the season was going very well. And, are there people out there that, many of you listening probably right now, that are like, I still hate the name. It reminds me of Dan Snyder. Sure. But I just want you to know that statistically speaking, more people have said the name doesn't really bother them that much anymore, as in Commanders. Because now, with the success that we've had, that we witnessed last year, they associate Commanders with Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, not with the ineptitude that was the Snyder era. And I think the uniforms in a lot of ways, like, this is weird, but it's like sensory, right? Like, it's emotional in terms of what do you associate this thing with? Commanders. And it used to be ineptitude. Like, the name changed in the middle of the scandals. All I think about is Dan Snyder and Ron Rivera and suck. And those uniforms, like, kind of exemplified that era. That was the visual of that era. So, yes, Jaden's rookie season will always now have the video be that. And sure, hopefully he has many more highlights outside of the 3 games that they're going to wear these uniforms this year. And those will live on in his file forever, including maybe the last games ever in the black uniforms, as those have been pushed aside for these, as far as I know, because I don't think you get to have multiple alternates. And so, like, 15 years from now, we're going to have to explain to kids that are 5 now, that are 20 then, to be like, yeah, there was this period where they had this black alternate uniform, and that's why the Hail Mary, he's wearing that. You know, it's going to be like a weird throwback thing, like the Jordan. You know, remember the when Jordan had to wear 12? Not even the 45. Anthony, do you have any idea what I'm talking about with that? Or is that, you never heard those stories?
I don't remember him wearing 12. I do remember 45, though.
Yeah, 45 when he came back, which I believe the story was like they had retired 23, and he's like, yeah, it was my number. But he also was like, I'm gonna try a different whatever, and then he's like, no, 20, and then after they didn't win, he's like, no, 23 is coming back, and then won more titles. There was a game, I want to say it was against the Orlando Magic, where somebody stole his uniform before the game, and so he had to wear like a generic, I don't even think his name was on the back of it, number 12 jersey. It's like the only extra one they had. Now I'm going to look this up. Michael Jordan, number 12 jersey game.
Oh, yeah, it was stolen.
Yeah. February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1990, was, and do we have the,
it said he scored 49 points on 12 of 43 shooting in the loss, and the jersey was found days later in the ceiling.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. So he scored 49 points in 47 minutes against the Magic. I was right. It was against Orlando. What a useless piece of information that I have. The point is, Jaden Daniels in the black jersey throwing Hail Mary will be the Michael Jordan number 12 game 20 years from now. That's what I was saying. 301.
Well, we won at least, though.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Mark in Largo. Mark, what's up, dude? Oh, sorry. Hold on, Mark. I did hit the same wrong button I did last time. All right, go ahead, Mark.
What's up, Craig? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
By the way, your birthday's in February, right? Because mine's in March.
It is.
Okay. Late February, early March. Late February, early February.
Late February. What, Mark?
Late February. So you're Pisces. You're Pisces, just like me. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Let me just say this, okay? To all the people who are going goo goo gaga over the uniforms coming back and the names and maybe the name coming back, okay, you know, I'm a Wizards fan. And I've been a Wizards fan, Craig, since before you were born, 1978, when they were called the Bullets. And they haven't won 50 games since 1979. They changed the name in 1996. I didn't cry about it. I kept going. You know, I think I'm loyal enough to say, being a Commanders or Redskins fan, that if you love the team, you love the team. I don't care what they call. I want them to win the Super Bowl this year. I want them to win the Super Bowl next year. I want them to win the Super Bowl 3 straight. That's all I care about. And if they win the Super Bowl in the uniforms that are called and the name Commanders, does it really matter? And if the people who are sitting up here saying, oh, I'm not going to come back until they change the name, you're letting politics get into the sports industry. If you want to watch politics, go ahead and watch politics. But I like to watch sports and just keep politics out of sports. Okay, just me on the case. But I think for people to sit up here and say, I'm not coming back until they change the name back. I'm not coming back until they change the uniforms. I love the fact that they got the old uniforms back. Okay, then don't be a fan then. That's honestly the way I feel. And I understand a lot of people may take that the wrong way. I really don't care. because I've been a Wizards fan for a long time. And do I want the Wizards to win? Yes. Do I wish they would go back to the name Bullets? Sure. Do I wish the Commanders would go to the Redskins name? Sure I would. But if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But I'm not going to go over, oh, well, Jaden, Jaden had a great season. They did well last year. But, I really would like if they changed the name or changed the uniform. It's ridiculous, man. To care less, I want them to win the Super Bowl. I want them to go back-to-back. I want them to be a dynasty. So we're not talking about this. The only thing we need to worry about is the stadium.
Yeah.
Go on that note, Craig.
Mark, appreciate the call. And look, I agree with a lot of what Mark said. That is my personal feeling. I think one of the areas that I have grown as a talk show host is to allow other people to have different feelings and to say, not everyone has to feel the same about this. For some people, it does matter more. And if that's you, okay. All I would say to those people that now are yelling at Mark is to say that it is very unlikely you are going to get what you want. And certainly if it is the name, you are 1,000% not going to get what you want. That's not me trying to be antagonistic. That's not me trying to be mean. That's not even me, although I agree with that personally. I am not even putting a value judgment on that for the fact portion of it. It's just a fact. The name's not coming back. How you react to that is going to be in part informed by your life experience. And for many of you, some of your happiest memories are rooting for a team that had the old nickname, and I get that. But if you can just make the decision to, I don't know, talk it out with a therapist, talk it out with your kids, talk it out with your spouse. I don't care. Talk it out with someone. Talk it out in the mirror to yourself. Just be like, I want to enjoy football the way I used to enjoy football, and this name is preventing me from it. And your choice is die because it's never coming back, or enjoy football. If you can find a way to enjoy football, that's going to bring more joy to your life. That's a cold, hard truth. Again, I'm not really into debating the merits one way or the other of it because the decision's been made. But I do think having the connective tissue of a franchise with as much positive history as this one has is a good thing. And thus, I'm a huge fan of these uniforms. Even though I personally didn't grow up going to RFK, et cetera, et cetera, I love that because I love the history of the game. And I think this is a perfect way to honor that and to have that connective tissue without inflaming the old debates again and again. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. More of your calls next. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the team at 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. Streaming live on YouTube at the team at 980. Taking your calls at 301-230-0980. Hour from now, we'll take a look at ESPN.com's rankings. Right? That's what we're doing at 5:30 now? The ESPN rankings? Or do we move some? Anthony and I blew up the show rundown 10 minutes before it started today. I don't remember. Did we even write down the new order of things?
I think we are doing that. Or
Okay.
no, Wizards.
Oh, yeah, we have some Wizards stuff because they made some trades and such. So we'll talk about the Wizards trades and the Olynyk trade. And we still haven't talked about the Cam Whitmore trade. The fact that they have a lot of wings right now. How do we make sense of all of that? And how is that going to work functionally? Chances are, I'm guessing that probably won't because I feel like they've always got another move up their sleeve. But we'll see. We'll talk about it an hour from now. We will do ESPN.com's skill position rankings tomorrow on the show. 5 o'clock. This is what we initially were going to start the show with, and then we decided to move some things around. Is 5 o'clock. The top story of the day is Mike Rizzo has spoken for the first time, as Mike DeBartolo, his replacement. So Rizzo was on the Junks this morning. DeBartolo spoke yesterday in St. Louis. Really interesting things from both conversations that I don't want to say have changed my mind about the situation, but has, I think, shifted my thinking a little bit. So it's not full like, oh, I thought A, but it's actually opposite A. But certainly a shift in my thinking and a suspicion that I had confirmed a little bit in hearing both parties speak. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit at 5 o'clock, and you'll hear some of the bites from Rizzo this morning. Also, speaking of the Wizards in Whitmore, at 6 o'clock today, we have his high school coach from here in the DMV with us. So some cool insight on not just Cam Whitmore, because obviously he's one dude on the Wizards. What are we going to do? Talk about him for the whole time? Oh, yeah, for a lot of it. But also, like, what's it like being a high school coach in this area with the Wizards going through what they're going through right now? The connection of the team to the DMV. It's something that I know is really important to Will Dawkins, for instance. And so what are the feelings of the kids that he's coaching about the local pro team? So we'll talk about that a little bit with Josh Pratt coming up at 6 o'clock. Right now, though, more of your calls. 301-230-0980 on the Commanders' new old uniforms. Let's go to Pete. Pete, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, you got me?
I got you, Pete.
Okay, making sure we got the button this time.
Yep, yeah, just let Anthony hit him, and it goes way better.
Yeah. So I think I'm excited about the uniform. I think it's a good. I think I'm glad it shows that the team has. It shows that they're reading the room, that they're seeing what the fans want. One of the things I hated about the new decision with the new name and uniforms from the old regime is that they claimed that they were doing what the fans wanted, but that's exactly what they didn't do. They didn't do anything the fans wanted. This says that there are some constraints on the decisions this regime has to make, and some people that are distraught about the name change and some of the changes that have made, they need to understand the fact that Josh Harris and company, they have to make decisions based on the way things are now. So it's not just easy. Oh, we'll just change the name back and that's it. You can't do that. It's not that easy. And the name, for those that don't want to hear it, sorry, gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off. The name is not coming back. The original name is not going to be back. I would bet a month's salary on that. That name is not coming back. Not because they don't want it to come back, but it's because it can't. And that they're businessmen and they have to operate the business like a business. That being said, could they change commanders? Yeah, I think they could do that. And hopefully that's something they'll come to decision. This is one step towards bringing things back to the way they know that their market wants it to be. Yes, there's new fans that are probably would have embraced the new stuff, but they also have old fans that they want to bring back a little bit. This is just like the one of your previous callers said, it's some old school with a touch of new. That's a good way of bringing both old and new fans on board and locking them in. I think it was a great idea. I think they did exactly what they were supposed to do. This regime is on the right track. They know what they're doing, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, Pete.
So I can't wait to see what other things they come up with.
For sure. I appreciate that call a lot because I think it hits to the core of what the bigger story is here, which is that this ownership group is A, paying attention, and B, like, they're real fans too. Like, that is the difference in this ownership group. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say almost every other new ownership group that's going to happen in sports. Like, the amount of money it takes to buy a professional team now is so preposterously large that the number of people who have it is extraordinarily slim. And so even for a guy that's so incredibly wealthy like Josh Harris is, he needed all of those minority partners, and still it was kind of scraping by to get these $6.2 billion asking price and deal done. Like, they had to get everybody. Like, Josh Harris, even amongst rich folks, is pretty rich. Obviously, they brought in David Blitzer, his partner in all Harris Blitzer sports entertainment things. Mark Ein is, like, pretty wealthy. Maybe not, he's not Josh Harris wealthy, but, like, Mark Ein's worth a whole lot of money, does a lot of stuff. Magic Johnson, billionaire. Mitch Rales is, like, pretty close to Harris in terms of the wealth factor. There's the Chilean family that I'm not sure exactly how much they're worth, because the number that gets reported fluctuates because are you talking about certain individuals or the family as a whole, but they're like super duper rich and they're super minority partners. But when you need cash and you need certain amounts of money for certain things up front, like having these incredibly wealthy people, I mean, because even the wealth is hard to talk about intelligently unless you're super in, like if you work for Sportico or something, or you work for Forbes, or you work in finance, you get it. But like, there's a difference between having wealth and being liquid. And like, when you need to pay for stuff, you need to be liquid and actually have the cash. And so all of that said to say this, which is the fact that we in this city got an owner who not only fit that bill that he could actually buy an NFL team from a money standpoint and put a group together to help him do it, but that he's of here, from here, grew up going to the games, and is a real fan of the team who understands the history and has institutional knowledge. Like the Penner group that bought the Broncos, I don't think any of them were probably Broncos fans before they bought the Broncos. They're rich folks that wanted to buy an NFL team. And like, that's fine, but it's going to be different. If you are, God, who's the next team? If the Seahawks go up for sale, because the Paul Allen Trust eventually is going to have to sell the Seahawks, what are the chances that they get? I mean, I guess like, Steve Ballmer, he's super duper rich, obviously, one of the richest, or I think he is the richest owner in the NBA. And he's got Microsoft ties. Would he buy it off of his old, colleague, Paul Allen's estate? Maybe. And maybe he's got some Seattle ties, but I don't know that Steve Ballmer like grew up in Seattle, a Seahawks fan. Like the chances that the next NFL team or the next NBA team, the next anything team, and I'll even say that about like, the monumental teams, like they're like, especially when Zach takes over eventually, whenever that time comes, like Zach Leonsis grew up as a kid going to games. Yeah, his dad, it was the early days of his dad owning the team, but like he grew up here and he's a fan. And so the fact that we have an ownership group in DC that for the NFL team really has an institutional knowledge at a time where that particular franchise has completely lost so much of the institutional knowledge that existed because they fired all of the good people over the last 25 years or ran them out or whatever. That's a pretty great thing. And hopefully they continue to acquire great talent. It can't all be institutional knowledge, but you need to have some. You need to have an understanding, especially when, whether it's a football team, a sports team, or just a public-facing company. Like, you have to understand your consumer base. And when it is an emotional deal, like it is in sports, that becomes even more important. So we're, I think, very lucky to have that here with the Commanders. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. 301-230-0980. More of your calls after a look at what's trending. It's the Hoffman Show, produced by Anthony Haney, who has some splaining to do. The hell is this? I mean, it's Knee Deep by the Zach Brown Band, which I know because I can read the screen.
I didn't know you could read.
I almost just made about 7 jokes that were just not nice to other people. I'll just eat that one. What the hell? What the hell was this?
This is what you call a curveball.
Yeah,
I knew you weren't paying attention.
I was paying attention. I was reading a story, but I was still paying attention.
Okay.
You know what you did on that curveball? Swing and a miss.
I guess I threw it into the dirt.
Yeah. Or I guess if you're the pitcher, yeah. Just like hit me. It's like, when a breaking ball, when a dude gets hit by like a 68-mile-an-hour pitch, and it's like the pitcher's like, I obviously didn't mean to hit you. And the batter's like, that was annoying. That's me. I'm just like,
yeah. Just take your base, Craig.
Yeah,
take your base.
Take my base. We also stream live on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. And if you're listening on YouTube, you don't get to hear the rejoin music. And for once, you're welcome. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. We're taking your calls on the uniforms that are new, old. I liked what Meal said earlier in the show. They are old school with a hint of new. Let's go to Noel in Chicago. Noel, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig. Thanks again for taking my call. I'll keep this short and sweet. I really love the new uniform throwback. I think the biggest thing for me, it's the original burgundy. And I think a lot of people are really attached to the name and all that, and more power to them. I'm more so attached to just the original colors of the glory days of Theismann, of Darryl Green, and of everybody else. So the fact that they've brought the original colors back resonates to me, and I can finally hopefully get a jersey whenever it's on sale, and hopefully my 2 little boys can get it too. And it's great that it's the correct color, because contrary to whatever anyone else said, it wasn't when it was with the current burgundy now. It's not really burgundy. These ones are, though. So I love that for that simple fact. So
yeah, I agree. Thanks for the call. And I think for me, like, when I see these uniforms, I think of Doug Williams, and I think of Art Monk, and I think of they just feel throwbacky. I don't think of like the Snyder era. I don't know. It's weird because these were the uniforms for much of the Snyder era, but for some reason, I think of like the burgundy uniforms as more of the Snyder. I know they wore both. But, like, I think of the burgundy as more of the Snyder era ones. Like, I see Kirk Cousins in a burgundy uniform. I see Santana in the burgundy uniform. I know they wore the white one. Maybe that's just, like, the highlights I'm thinking of. But these white uniforms especially, Anthony, I feel like these scream 1987. These scream 1991. And even though you weren't around in either of those years, and I was only around for one of them, we have the internet, we've seen the old highlights, and it feels like many of the great highlights of the day were these white uniforms. And like this, that are just, we are, for lack of a better word, victims of good branding. They prepped us to be like Super Bowl era. They called them Super Bowl era. And now I'm sitting here on the radio being like, hey, it's Super Bowl era. And so I don't know whether that's good marketing and setting my brain in a certain, think about the pink elephant, or don't think about the pink elephant. Like, is it a mind trick, or is that actually correct? I don't know, but either way, it worked on me. Work on you? Are you paying attention? Now who's not paying attention? Now who's getting hit with a curveball?
I was not paying attention.
Good gracious. All right. You got more thoughts, you can leave them in the YouTube chat at the Team 980. We'll see if Anthony's paying attention next. Mike Rizzo joined the Sports Junkies this morning. We are going to play some of the important things he said and react to it as today's edition of Not My Beat next. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, streaming live on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn, and of course on YouTube at the Team 980. No guest today for Not My Beat because the guest is the story. Wait, what? I'll explain in a moment.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
So this morning, Mike Rizzo, the recently removed president of baseball operations and general manager of the Washington Nationals, was on the Sports Junkies, where he was a guest for, a decade more, while he was at the helm of the Nationals, weekly with the Junkies during the season. They talked at spring training, great relationship that we at the radio stations are very appreciative of Mike for and the Nationals for over the years. Not every club gives you the top executive all the time, and Mike was willing to do that and explain things and answer tough questions. He showed up on weeks that were hard. He showed up on weeks where they were winning, and it was easy to just be like, hey, how great a job are you doing? I'm doing great. But I thought it was a really interesting interview, especially in light of some of the things that I have read over the last couple of days. Many of them, bluntly, by Barry Svrluga, who I think does as good of a job thinking about and writing about the Washington Nationals as anybody. And Barry's written 3 banger columns over the last couple of days. And the last one is kind of what the Nats do, or the middle one, I should say, the one that came out yesterday, is kind of what the Nats do from here. And the big point in Barry's column that I thought was interesting was, when Rizzo took over, he took over, and Stan Kasten had been here, and Kasten had been the president of the team. And there was, while Rizzo was in charge of the baseball, there was never this voice of ownership. And there was never someone to be like, hey, this is what ownership is thinking. I am the conduit to ownership. Rizzo, in fact, often, especially over the last 6 years, has been in conflict, it seems, with ownership based on the reporting. And so one of the things that Barry talked about that I thought was interesting, that framed my mindset listening in this morning to the Junkies. And of course, the full interview is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search for the Sports Junkies. That idea of that was a gap that was never filled, and there seemed to be some space between Rizzo and ownership, was certainly something that I was thinking about. And then, frankly, after the interview and listening to Rizzo, there's something else Barry wrote about Mike DiBartolo, the new general manager who spoke for the first time last time. I should say the new interim general manager. He's just an interim. But he said, ownership has empowered me to do a bunch of stuff, and there's different ways to spend in an organization, and there's technology and staffing and infrastructure. And I'm like, huh. If ownership's on board with that and it hasn't been done, seems like perhaps while a lot of the blame is being thrown at ownership, and certainly there's a lot of blame to go around, perhaps who is driving the ship matters. And so let's play some of Rizzo, and then I want to bring all those thoughts together. In a bit of hope for the Washington Nationals, just a smidge of hope. It will require a lot of good work by a lot of good people, or a lot of people. I don't know whether they're good or not. I hope they're good. But let's start off with just the end. The timing of being fired. This actually was not a surprise to Rizzo in the way it was a surprise to many of us.
I was a little surprised, but I wasn't shocked. Mark Lerner and I talk every Monday since I've been here, so we're in constant contact at least every Monday since I've been there. And when Ted was here, it was Ted and Mark every Monday. So we have a pretty consistent communication throughout the season, and I don't think it was based on any one series. I don't think the Red Sox series pushed anybody over the edge. But I think it was a little surprising just because of the timing. But when you have conversations with ownership and they make decisions, and when you are in the point where you're struggling in the season and you're trying to make everything right and play better baseball, it could happen. It could have happened at any time during the season.
Yeah, it's a bad baseball team. Has been a bad baseball team. I don't know that it's as bad as the roster. And at some point, I think you can look at the manager and be like, okay, well then why is that happening? but also maybe the individual pieces are not built well to be a collective. And I think the way that we think about successful baseball teams now in the Moneyball and post-Moneyball era, since data impacted the way we think about the game in a much more significant way, is we're looking for certain players that can do certain things. And I think that is an area where the Nats can get a lot better, is like, what is their ideal third baseman? What is their ideal shortstop? What characteristics does he have in the field? What characteristics does he have at the plate? And what things specific to that position do we need when we're building a lineup and when we're building a group of fielders, and ultimately, obviously, the biggest area of miss right now outside of Mackenzie Gore, a pitching staff. And those are things I'm thinking about as I listened to Mike Rizzo this morning, and we talked to really smart people like Chelsea Janes, who was telling us that the Tampa Bay Rays have like 5 people or multiple people in the organization that focus just on the catcher position, and they have an exact profile of catcher that they want, of exactly how their catchers are going to frame pitches. And I'm like, I don't feel like that's the type of thing that the Nationals are thinking about currently. And if it is, it's not the kind of thing that the lead decision maker is thinking about. And so ultimately that the results add up and they're bad. And yeah, that's when GMs and managers lose their job. And Mike Rizzo does not seem to have any regrets. And this is a line that he came back to Frank Sinatra style many times during this interview.
It was a, trying couple of days and, since the weekend, but, hey, we're all adults here. We're big boys, so we know what we're into when we take these jobs. And, we had a hell of a run, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. And, I know I did it my way. I did it the way I led the organization and the franchise the way I felt was best to maximize our potential, and we had a lot of success. And at the end of the day, I've said this for years. Every year since I've been on this program, it's this is a performance-based industry.
Yeah, it is, and I think the thing that, as we continue to play some of these bites here, the thing that really, kind of miffed me about listening to Rizzo, if I'm just being honest this morning, is that I did it my way, and you have to work with what you have, and all those things seem to make it seem like this has been a middling team just on the verge of doing better over the last 6 years since they won the World Series. They're the second worst team in baseball. There is a lot that has to go wrong. And I know this is, by the way, by no means meant to let the learners off the hook. They have not invested enough in this organization. And maybe they're about to, and that's going to make, some of the narrative shift, maybe it was Rizzo's fault all along, and there's going to be, for the last 6 years, thanks, Mike, for 2019 and all the divisions before, but post that he lost his fastball, and it's there's probably some of that where the game has moved on in ways that if you want to compete, as more and more front offices got to be quote unquote smart front offices, and the position of general manager changed, and Mike Rizzo doesn't seem to have changed with it, quote unquote, I did it my way. There's some of that, but also, did they empower Mike Rizzo while keeping him employed to be the best version of himself? Clearly not over the last bunch of years. But I think the thing that I overall left this interview between Mike Rizzo and the Junkies feeling towards Rizzo specifically is there is more blame on his side of the blame pie than I think a lot of people in the immediate aftermath who just wanted to blow up the learner's spot wanted to give to Rizzo, which gets us to this quote from Rizzo.
And the secret of being a good executive and a good general manager is you do the best you can with what you have. We've all gone through this, whether you're in baseball or in life in general. You do the best with what you have, and we didn't, in ownership's eyes, we didn't do enough with it, so they made a change.
To say in ownership's eyes we didn't cast the blame to ownership versus having a real hard look at did we or did we not? Which brings us to this quote from Mike DiBartolo, the interim general manager, yesterday as he held court for the first time in the visiting dugout in St. Louis. Every conversation I've had with ownership is they want to build a winner, and they want to build a winner as soon as they can, and they're motivated, DeBartolo said. There are a lot of different ways to invest in the club, whether it's staffing, technology, players. They have a lot of questions about the best way to do it, and they've been asking a lot of good questions, and I can sense a desire from them to get us back to being a championship caliber club. And I love this because I'm reading this from Barry's for Luga's column. Barry's next line is, hold them to it. Someone, anyone, Mike? And so, yeah, absolutely, there needs to be more investment from ownership. But who is making the sales pitch matters. And if you have even less data than other teams, how you use that data matters. This is something that if you've listened to this show for a long time, you've heard me say a million times. Analytics are a tool, and they are only as good as the craftsman who holds them. Actually, Anthony, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever said it exactly that way before, and I wish I had. That was a bar.
I was about to say, yeah, I don't know if you said it exactly like that, but it sounded
That's
good.
better than I've ever said that before. Congratulations, everybody. You've listened to the best version of this show that's ever existed. But that's what it is, right? Analytics are a tool, and if you can give 28 people a spreadsheet with the same exact data on it, and the conclusions they draw out of that data are all going to be different. And the person or the people that do the most with the data are going to be the most successful. It's a tool. And so if Rizzo is saying, hey, we need this thing, and he's making the sales pitch, and whether it's a technology piece, whether it's a new analytics thing, and he's not doing a good job of selling the learners that it's worth their money, and they're like, don't think so. And now Mike DeBartolo comes in, and he's like, yeah, when I have these conversations with ownership, even though we've only been having them for 2 days, or maybe I've had some conversations in the past as the assistant general manager, the number 2 in charge, and they've been very receptive, that tells me that maybe Mike DeBartolo has a different way of making these decisions and of thinking you're selling the importance of certain things that cost money. And ultimately, like, that's your job as a lead executive who's not in charge of the money. If you have carte blanche to do whatever you want and you don't have to ask ownership, that's one thing. If you have to ask ownership, which is most organizations, that's not the learners specifically. I'm sure Adam Peters has to ask Josh Harris for, if it costs more than X, I kind of want to sign off on it. And you're going to have to tell me why it's worth it. What's the payoff? And if Rizzo is not on top of the newest technology and or does a bad job of selling that to owners, it's, yes, ownership, you would love to then be curious and go out and find more on their own and be like, oh, yes, we do need this. And please make sure you don't mess up using it so we're not wasting money. But ultimately, like, I'll summarize here because I feel like now I'm talking in circles. After listening to Rizzo this morning and after reading the quotes from DeBartolo, I think there is more blame on Rizzo's plate for the failures of the last 6 years than a lot of us were giving him credit for, because he is clearly very smart. He's a good executive who has had a lot of success. His resume is excellent. But your resume in the last 6 years is you have built and presided over the second worst team in baseball. And the areas in which the game has evolved, you have not evolved with. And that's ultimately why he's gone. I think DeBartolo made a heck of an opening salvo last night with some of the things he said, where he's like, I understand where some of the areas where we've come short. And yes, we're going to do things differently. Very different, notably, than Miguel Cairo, who's basically like, I'm going to try to honor Dave Martinez and go 1-0 tonight. It's like, okay, buddy. They're longtime friends. It is what it is. The season is what it is. But considering the long-term impacts of the number 1 draft pick Sunday and a trade deadline where you could see a Mackenzie Gore trade coming up, not to mention other smaller moves that could be hugely significant moving forward, I feel actually my initial impressions and reading about Mike DeBartolo, I feel very confident in his ability to do that. And then apparently also Barry had in his reporting that the Nationals ownership group has already started reaching out to people around baseball to try to get a sense of who might be worth talking to in this offseason. And I think Barry also made a really good point in his column that, when George McPhee left the Capitals, when Leonsis finally moved on from him in the mid-2010s, they hired the number 2 And everyone at the time thought, what a nightmare. But the case was made to ownership. Like, I actually know, I don't agree with everything we did. And I intimately know the weak areas, but also I know what's good. And that puts me in a unique place to lead this franchise. And that was a compelling and ultimately correct assessment as the Capitals went on to win the Stanley Cup 4 years later, and 2 President's trophies before that. So maybe DeBartolo winds up being the guy. Maybe he doesn't. But at the very least, this is someone who, while supporting Rizzo for a long time, seems to have his own ideas. And I think that's really important, especially in a front office where I think Rizzo was the ultimate decision maker for a long time. And it sounds like he acted as an executive sometimes has to. Like, he had to make the decisions. But sometimes those decisions were not the ones that the group would have made if it had been a full-on democracy. And I think that is worth pointing out as well. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We got a time for a call or two on all of that with you next at 301-230-0980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. I was confused for a second, Anthony, because you play like the real version of the song, and there was a countdown on the screen, and I guess that's the intro to the lyrics. Yes.
Yes, that is the countdown to the lyrics.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa. I was like, am I about to run out of song? How long have I not been? I was watching something on Instagram real quick and reading, but I was like, has this song been playing for a long time? Are we about to run out? Do I have to start talking fast? I was like, no, I'm pretty sure this is the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs. They played this at Camp Day yesterday.
They played a lot of stuff at Camp Day yesterday.
I was very
my
excited.
favorite. It was actually when there was a song that you didn't know, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know this one," and the kids are going crazy, and I was like, "Ha ha! Welcome to old madness."
And there was another song that I thought that was a Taylor Swift song, but whose song was it?
That was the Chapel Roan song.
Yeah, Chapel Roan.
Yeah, how do you not know Chapel Roan, bro?
The thing is, I do know, but at the same token, I don't know.
You want to run that one
All
back?
right, so last year, I'm pretty sure last year when we, like probably around this time of the year, actually, we were probably talking about TikTok songs. And
Because
I
we went
remember
to Camp
this
Day?
being it was a very trendy song.
Yeah, it's HOTTOGO.
Yeah.
Hot to go.
Yeah.
HOTTOGO.
Yep.
Yeah, that one.
And I hadn't quite known, the song lyrics or the dance behind it. So
The dance is easy.
Yeah, you had put me onto it.
It's just.
Can you show me?
No, it's just make the letters. It's like the YMCA, except for you spell HOTTOGO.
So go ahead.
I'm good.
Hey, Craig will never ever dance.
Not while the cameras are running. I know where my strengths lie, Anthony.
Hey,
Manning.
the thing is though, Craig, I will catch you one day. I'm just going, got him.
Yeah, but this is why I control the cameras.
It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if you see, or I care less if you see.
Yeah.
You gotta stay within the box. You gotta stay within. There was a comedian at some point that had that. It's like the problem, especially with white people dancing, is that there's two of my favorite bits ever. One, I can't remember whose it is, so I apologize to the comedian whose bit I'm ripping off right now. It's basically like you got to stay in the box, like you got to stay in here, and like people try to get outside the box, and like that's where it all goes haywire. The funniest bit I've ever heard from a comedian on dancing was Trevor Noah. I think it was his last tour. Maybe it was 2 ago. I don't know. But I saw him do this bit at Capital One Arena, which is one of the funny. Like, do you realize how hard it is to do stand up? Actually, you might because you barely survived 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He did like a 2+ hour set, and it was good. You realize how hard it is to talk to an audience for 2 hours and for everyone to just be wrapped on their seat, the edge of their seat, being like, "This is amazing."
And he had nothing on his hand. Like
I swear he did
some
2
people
hours.
like have like they'll write something down. They have a card. Like they'll have something they can like glance at.
I think it was.
So they know.
Yeah,
like,
I
where
think
they
it was
are.
one of the first shows he did on that particular tour.
That's impressive.
And so he hadn't really pared it all down because, like, typically they tape the special towards the end of the tour. And so we just got like kind of unfiltered first big arena show of whatever that tour was. And he just like they literally, I think at some point, like someone got in his ear and was like, "Hey man, we got to wrap up because like we don't have the building past midnight." And like we have to get out. It was like it was like 11 o'clock and he was still going and he had gone on at 9. It was crazy. But one of the bits from that is that he's like, I have finally figured out why like the difference in white people and black people dancing. And he's like, black people, like, speaking as Trevor Noah, obviously, like we from Africa, we invented the drums and the beat and the rhythm. And white people are dancing to the lyrics. And he's like, the Anglo-Saxon history of word, like it was so funny.
Oh man.
And he just like he somehow like started doing the bit, I think, and then like he had the whole crowd singing Sweet Caroline all of a sudden. And of course, it's a room full of probably, I don't know, 11 to 14,000 white people of the 20,000. And so there's ba ba ba, whatever, the Sweet Caroline, ba ba ba, like the whole deal. It was amazing.
Wow.
So funny. I've seen him live probably 4 or 5 times.
Good gracious.
Maybe not 4 or 5, 3 or 4. Anyway, however many it is, worth it every time.
Yeah, for sure.
Worth it every time. Anyway, that's not Mike Rizzo talk, but that's where we went with wait. Yep. Yeah, Anthony giving the full TikTok dance. Anyway, when we get back, something else that's silly but in a different way. Play call nomenclature. Oh, wait, are we doing that next? No. What are we doing next? We're doing the Wizard stuff next.
Yes.
This is what happens when we blow up the rundown 5 minutes before the show, and then I don't remember what's next. We will get to the take command play call nomenclature stuff. Why the Commanders use short play calls to their advantage in a way that many other teams don't. And the advantages and disadvantages of long versus short play calls, because of a great mailbag question that Logan and I had a lot of fun with. So that's coming up at 6:15. Cam Whitmore's high school coach is going to join us at 6. Up next, though, we will talk some Wizards, talking about both the Cam Whitmore and Kelly Olynyk trades that have gone down since the big trade, the Jordan Poole trade, was announced on Sunday. That's next here on the Team 980. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Always on iHeartRadio and TuneIn now as well. New places to check out the show. As always, we're streaming live video side on YouTube at the team 980. So the Wizards on Sunday made the trades official, acquiring Kelly Olynyk from the Pelicans. I mentioned first because he is now out again, and we'll get into that in a second, as well as CJ McCollum. They obviously also get Cam Whitmore from the Rockets. We'll talk to Whitmore's high school coach from Archbishop Spalding coming up at 6 p.m. DMV kid coming home. Some very cool pictures that Whitmore shared. Him getting a jersey signed by Marcin Gortat. So very, very cool to see him coming home. But, Anthony, the first and foremost, the Olynyk trade means that Kelly Olynyk never gets to be a Wizard. And there is some justice in that, because rooting for Kelly Olynyk clearly would have been just emotionally confusing for Washington Wizards fans. The last most relevant game that the Washington Wizards play was the Kelly Olynyk game in 2016, which is, I mean, I guess, in the Russ Beal year, there was some significant games, but really the last big game the Wizards played was almost 10 years ago, and Kelly Olynyk came out of nowhere to ruin it for the Boston Celtics. And so, no, you do not get to be a Washington Wizard.
Nah, yeah, he doesn't. I was very relieved because that, first of all, him being here just didn't sit right with my spirit. But now that he's gone and he'll no longer put on a Wizards jersey, I can sleep at night peacefully.
Oh, I'm glad you can sleep at night peacefully. Then there is what is left for the Wizards, which is quite a bit in terms of gentlemen who are somewhere between 19 and 22 years old. And then there is the senior citizen category of a couple of guys. Senior citizen being relative, and if I was on the team, I would be a senior citizen. So sorry to Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, who is younger than me, Marcus Smart, and CJ McCollum, who is, I believe, also younger than me. Chris Middleton and I think are actually the same. How old is Chris Middleton? Chris Middleton is 33. Damn it, he's younger than me too. God, I'm so old, Anthony. When did this happen?
33? Good gracious.
When LeBron retires, I'm so cooked. Because LeBron's way older than me.
And Chris Paul.
Yeah, when they retire, I'm cooked. Anyway, the point is, currently on the Wizards roster, in terms of guys that are 20, let's go 25 or younger. You have Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, Justin Champagnie, who's ancient by Wizard standards because he turned 24 in late June. You have Corey Kispert is actually graduated. Congrats, Corey. You're out of you're 26, so you don't count. Bilal. You have Tristan Vukcevic. You have Rashawn Holmes is actually in the old man club, and he's at this point going to play quite a bit. Malcolm Brogdon is still on the team, although there's a ton of trade rumors around him. He's in the old man club. A.J. Johnson, who was born in 2004. Cool. And then you have Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, obviously younger. And then you have the guys that they have acquired in the last couple of days and / the draft picks. You have Trey Johnson. You have Blake Wesley, who was acquired in the Spurs deal for Kelly Olynyk. You have, I said Trey Johnson, right? You have Will Riley, the other draft pick. You have, I feel like I skipped Keyshawn George, but he's there. So you just have, let's see, if you have Bub, Trey, Blake Wesley, Cam Whitmore, Trey Johnson. No, I said Trey Johnson already. Keyshawn, Alex Sarr, Will Riley, Vukcevic, Whitmore, I think I didn't say yet. That's 8 guys under the age of 25. And I'm having to bounce back and forth between depth charts because certain things are more updated than others. I don't think I said Champagnie. That's 9. So you're somewhere between 7 when all is said and done, depending on how the two-way guys go. You have a guy like JT Thor, who was a two-way guy, Jalen Martin, two-way guy. Those are both younger guys. So you're going to have somewhere between 8 and 12 guys that are 22 years old or younger, that is one, I would hope that breeds a wildly competitive atmosphere. Like, because, I mean, I saw a video, I think Varun posted it, of Trey and Bub shooting contest. Like, they're yapping at each other. You can't beat me. Oh, I've already beat the Rook this, whatever. And so, like, these guys are already in the gym getting after it. Some of these guys have known each other for a long time. I mean, Bub and Cam go way, way back to the AAU circuit when they were like 8 years old.
That's cool too.
Yeah, these guys have competed hard against each other for a long time, so that's nothing new. And as long as you have the right veterans to make sure that competitive spirit and make sure that competitiveness is guided in the right directions, which Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, CJ McCollum, etc., Malcolm Brogdon, as long as he's here, like those are the right kind of guys. Corey Kispert is like a nice in the middle type of guy. Like these are the right types of guys. The Wizards are not going to win a lot of games this year. They can't win a lot of games this year. They need a high draft pick. But this is the end of that. This, to me, is the final year of we got to be bad, and that's because the draft pick is top 8 protected. And this draft is loaded, and they still don't have the guy. That is the thing they're still hoping for, and they can get it with any one of 4 picks potentially in next year's draft. Obviously, the top pick, or the higher the pick, the better. But I still think that what they've done with all of this young talent is they have set themselves up to follow where a lot of people look at it as an Oklahoma City type of path because Will and Michael came from that route. In many ways, it's the Houston Rockets path, where can we get enough young talent that we can be pretty good as it matures, but there's so much of it where we can afford to trade a Jalen Green for a better veteran, and that's how we ultimately build the team if we don't get our guy. And if you get AJ DeBonsa next year, then yeah, you're probably still making some trades down the line with some of these young guys to try to flip them for better, more veteran assets when you're ready to win, and win big. And it'll take DeBonsa a couple of years, even though he's as highly thought of as Flag. But even if you don't get DeBonsa, if you can flip, I don't want to say any names but pick 2 of the guys that we just talked about and a pick because they have that too to another team that's in more of a rebuilding phase, but maybe they have a disgruntled star who wants out. That's how you kickstart your rebuild, a la what Houston did. Houston, by the way, the number 2 seed last year in the Western Conference, who added Kevin Durant in the offseason. And I know Durant's 37, and Durant has his complications, but that dude is still an unbelievable offensive basketball player. And the Rockets are one of the favorites in the league this year. And I think that has emerged as a plausible path for the Wizards moving forward. I don't know how quickly, but I think you look at the roster setup and you go, oh, okay, these things are maybe making some moves on the margins, but they set up. If you move enough on the margins, you're in a very different place than you were. And I feel like the Wizards, considering how deep the hole they had to dig out of was when this group took over, have done a whole lot. They've removed a whole lot of dirt, and they're ready to start filling in with the true foundation of the team, and in many ways have.
Yeah, I think in trading for all of these young guys, I just see Will and Michael, taking swings on as many, high-level players or guys with
upside.
Yeah. And then seeing what sort of kind of connects. And I think we saw that with the Rockets and we saw that with the Thunder. But just taking those chances on all these guys and seeing what connects, I think is a way for, to figure out, what's going to work here and fit here kind of thing. And then, going on from there. So,
and I think the one thing that they've done a really good job of the last 2 years is they've found guys with elite traits. They're not well-rounded, but I don't know that, they haven't had the chance to do that. Those are the Cooper Flags. Those are the Dylan Harpers. They haven't missed on anybody in that way. What they have done is given themselves a chance to have a great player at something. And whether that fits those players wind up fitting together to be greater than the sum of their parts here, or you have the perfect fit for a team that will then give you something of value in return, and eventually that's how you acquire your well-rounded guy. Like Alex Sarr has all defense potential with his movement skills and all the things. Trey Johnson, we'll see if he can defend at the NBA level. I'm guessing not very much as a rookie, but he's going to be challenged to do so. But that dude can score the freaking ball. And, like, they didn't have a guy like that. You know who else can score the ball? Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore doesn't do a lick of anything else yet in the NBA, and he'll be, again, challenged to do that. He has I was listening to Lowe's pod, and I thought he put it pretty humorously and well. He's like, his decision tree currently has one branch on it. It is get the ball, shoot. If have ball, shoot. That is Cam Whitmore's current decision tree. He'll be challenged to be more of a playmaker, to rebound, to defend, etc. He actually rebounds it at a pretty decent rate. But like Malachi Branham, the guy they just got from the Spurs in the Olynyk deal, I don't know how long he is for the Wizards, and I don't know if he's going to be any good. What I do know is that he did shoot in limited minutes, in limited opportunities, 40% from three last year on a team that desperately needs shooting. He also was like 30% 2 years ago. So has he found it? Like, did he take a second to adjust from college to pro, and he's actually a 40% three-point shooter that the Wizards just acquired for a guy that didn't fit their timeline at all? Like, that'd be sweet. What if all of a sudden you're surrounding the Bub Carringtons of the world, an elite competitor, that's his superpower, and a guy who's going to get downhill and drive. You surround him with Trey Johnson and Corey Kispert and Malachi Branham. And, like, that's a lineup that can score a little bit. Okay. The Wizards couldn't really score last year. That'd be cool. They need more decision makers. They need more ball handlers. Like, we'll see what Will Riley develops into. You know, he's listed currently as a power forward on the depth chart at ESPN.com, and I think he's going to wind up playing some point guard. So, like, who knows what he could be as a player. But, like, this is the cool thing, is they have taken guys who have a chance to be really good, and even if they go 2 for 8 on the really good part, I even mentioned Bilal, like, who's the best player of them all right now. If they go 2 for 8, like, that's pretty good considering where they've been drafting. And if the rest of them are solid to good and they get 2 really good, and then you just have to find your great, that's how you build a championship team. That's what the Rockets are trying to do. You know, the Thunder did it a different way. Other teams have done it different ways, but that is, I think, the hope, obviously, for what Washington is doing. When we get back, we can talk a little bit more about this, including with you at 301-230-0980 before Josh Pratt, who is Cam Whitmore's coach at Archbishop Spalding in Severn, joins us here on the Team 980. Talking to Cam Whitmore's high school coach, newest wizard from the DMV. That's coming up in 8 minutes here on the Hoffman Show. I saw something that I wanted to mention on the show in the break, Anthony, and I've wanted to mention it for a couple of days, so I'm going to take the opportunity to do it real quick here. Total off script. Anthony now holds his breath because he has no idea where I'm going with this.
I don't. I'm along for the ride, sir.
That's what you should put on your LinkedIn page. Producer of the Hoffman Show. I'm just along for the ride. No, you sometimes at least give me directions. Whether I follow them or not is totally, that's my job. I drive. So Ben Shelton at Wimbledon is out after losing to Jannik Sinner this morning. Another terrific run for the young American. I thought he had some great, introspective on his game quotes afterwards, where he's talking about the challenges of playing Sinner and specifically on grass and the whole thing. But he's not actually the one I want to talk about. I would like to talk about his girlfriend, who is U.S. Women's National Team star, Washington Spirit star, Olympic gold medalist, and arguably the most impactful player on that team. Certainly one of the three most, along with Mallory Swanson and Sophia at the time Smith, now Wilson, who were nicknamed Triple Espresso. Trinity Rodman is one of the most famous female athletes in the world. She is one of the best athletes in the world, period, full stop. And so she is dating Shelton and has been able to with the NWSL summer break, and there's a lot of speculation whether she'll actually come back or whether she's just about to sign a deal in Europe anyway. But she has been in his box at Wimbledon with his family. And on the ESPN broadcast the other day, she was misnamed as Tiffany Rodman, and they decided to bring up everyone's dumbest fun fact about Trinity Rodman, which is, yes, her father is the former NBA player Dennis Rodman. Trinity has talked at length about how she does not have a relationship with her father, and in fact, the relationship they have had has been very hurtful and harmful to her. He is, I'll say this kindly in case there are children in your car, he was essentially a donor. And to the extent that he has showed up in her life, it has been incredibly disruptive and harmful. And she has talked about this in interviews. She has talked about this at length, most recently on the Call Her Daddy podcast about a year ago after the Olympics. And what was I actually thought the interview crossed the line in terms of how invasive it was. But that was part of the deal, was I'm going to talk about this one more time and I'm done. And so after this happens, Trin goes on Instagram and is like, my name is not Tiffany, and I am there supporting Ben with his family, and the fact that you need to bring up my dad's name, when he doesn't even come to my matches, is ridiculous. Please stop mentioning him. And then, this is actually the part that I find reprehensible, is you have a ton of website, social media, sports aggregator type accounts. Besides, I think Awful Announcing occasionally does really, really good stuff. And so this is not Awful Announcing sucks and I hate them. There are other outlets that I think are far, far worse, but I happen to see their headline. And the headline is Trinity Rodman upset at coverage at US Open, or some version of that. Why isn't the headline about how sports broadcasters have apparently no file on one of the world's most famous athletes, and why she would be perhaps more relevant to a sports audience than someone else's significant other in the tournament? What is wrong with people, and what is wrong with the sports media, Anthony, that they think that's the play? Oh, I know what the story is here. It's that a human being who's incredibly famous and worthwhile, who has a toxic and terrible relationship with her father and would like for sports announcers to not bring it up, and also would like to be called the right name, simply asks for that human decent respect. That's the headline, not the fact that they did that thing. It is just insane to me that you would think about centering Rodman in the story, not the announcers who did the thing that is wrong. If the story is not that she called it out, the story is that it happens. The fact that she had to call it out is a problem and a reflection on the same people who are now talking about her calling it out and not the thing that they should have called out in the first place.
I think also those broadcasters and the producers had ample opportunity to like actually do their research because it wasn't the first match of, you know, the family and her being there either, though. Like, they knew she was going to be there the rest of the week. And the fact you didn't
She's
do
been
your
there the whole time.
Yeah. So I think that's a little irresponsible on all of them. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put the onus only on Rodman. Also, it's the broadcasters.
Also, like, what hole do you live in? Like, she is one of the most famous athletes on the planet, not because of her last name, because of what she has done. She is in global Adidas campaigns. She was, again, in one of the biggest stars of the Olympics. She is like a model type to look at, and that has gotten her certain opportunities in like the fashion adjacent world. Like, she is really famous, and you get her name wrong, and that's your number one go-to fact isn't any of those things, isn't her championship winning athlete for both club and country, isn't her any sporting accolades. It's who her terrible dad is. Like, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, I felt the need to say that. And I hope that my colleagues in sports media do far, far better and just don't be lazy and bad at your jobs. Amen. Left turn. Josh Pratt is the head coach of Archbishop Spalding. He coached Cam Whitmore in high school. Cam Whitmore's now a Washington Wizard. We'll talk to Josh about Cam next here on The Hoffman Show. Final hour of the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Also streaming live on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. If you missed any of the first 2 hours, you can check it out wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Odyssey app. And, of course, we're also on YouTube at the Team 980. Speaking of podcasts, Take Command, Logan and I talked about football play calling nomenclature. And while that sounds incredibly nerdy and boring, I promise you it was interesting, and you'll hear part of that conversation coming up at 6:15. But first, it is time to welcome in the head coach of Archbishop Spalding's boys basketball team, Josh Pratt, who coached Cam Whitmore at Archbishop Spalding and now gets to see his former player play for the Wizards at Capital One Arena. Josh, appreciate your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I'm excited to talk to you about Cam, a kid that you had when he was a kid, now as a young man coming back to the DMV to play for the Wizards. I always love to ask this question when we have like high school coaches on or college coaches of guys that are young professionals or just became professionals. In Cam's case, been with Houston obviously for a couple years now. Tell me about the first time you saw Cam Whitmore and what you thought of the young man.
The first time I saw him actually was in the spring, and you know he was already a big young man. You know, I think sometimes, you know, when especially high school teachers, you know, he looked so big, but you didn't realize he was 15 years old and he's, you know, legit 6'7". I don't think he was probably maybe 215 pounds, but a tall individual, very well respected. You know, he's a respectful kid, was raised well by his mom and dad. And we hit it off right away, really. You know, quiet kid as a sophomore. You know, obviously, you know, I'm sure people know, you know, coming off an injury as a freshman. But, you know, over the period of time, I was able to gain his trust. We did a lot of kind of one-on-one meetings and stuff like that. And, you know, I think his breakout game, personally, was when he had 34 and like 15 rebounds against Gilman. They were number one in our league at the time, and we kind of pulled the upset. And, you know, his dunk against this 6'9" kid, I mean, I just sat there with my arms folded, but inside, it was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable dunk, and that's when I knew, like, the kid was special.
So what do you do with a kid like that? Like, you don't get kids like that. And if you're coaching at IMG Academy, like, sure. You have that Montverde, you have that all the time. But you get a kid like that that's just special and different that comes through your program. I'm sure there's a sense of responsibility. But what are the feelings that you have, and then what are some things that you try to do to make sure that you maximize him and get him set up for the best career that he's going to have as potentially a professional basketball player?
Well, you know, when he was young, I think he was kind of off the radar. So it was more of just building a relationship with him on and off the court, you know, really gaining his trust as a player. I think his parents really helped that. His parents, you know, I can't thank enough. They believed in me, believed in my track record, you know, so to speak, as a high school coach. You know, there's, you know, this time and age, you know, everybody, you know, is transferring and, you know, and I took over for a coach that, you know, recruited Cam, and he could have easily transferred, but, you know, he trusted me, trusted my staff. And so when it comes to, you know, really working the kid out, it's individual workouts, it's morning workouts. We do 6 a.m. morning workouts before school, you know, things like that. So, you know, and then really film study, right? Like, you know, pulling him aside and kind of doing some film study with him individually, help side defense, rotations, you know, because he's an unbelievable athlete. I think everybody knows that. So, you know, again, going back to what I said earlier, just gaining his trust, and I think he believed in me as a coach. We won some good games. You know, obviously, I think we would have won more games. I think he would have been a 2,000-point scorer if it wasn't for the pandemic.
Yeah, which obviously shaped every kid that's his age and their experience in high school. Josh Pratt, the head coach of Archbishop Spalding, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Coach Cam Whitmore, of course, now with the Wizards. I want to double click on the trust factor because it seems like the reports out of Houston were that he and Ime Udoka, the head coach down there, were not on the same page. What can you get out of a Cam Whitmore when you have his trust?
Oh, you're going to get a tremendous player. I think there's a lot of untapped talent there that I think once you gain his trust, I think you're going to get a kid that will do anything for you, will do anything for the organization. I think, and again, I absolutely love the kid, so I'm definitely biased, but I think he's coachable. I think he's a good teammate. I think, honestly, just watching from afar and not really knowing what happened down there, I think he just wants to play. I think he wants to help contribute to the team because I think he believes in his talent. I think he's a very confident individual, and I think it was a great trade. I'm a huge Wizards fan. I was a ball boy back in 1989, so I've been a Wizards fan all my life. So I personally love it. I think they're going to get the best out of him. I tell you a side note: his dad and I are close. He still comes to games, things like that. He sent me a picture of Cam when he was younger, and Martin Gortat was signing his autograph. I just thought the world of that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think Cam actually wound up sharing that out on social media as well. So very, very
cool.
cool.
Okay, yeah.
Very cool to see the ties. Actually, I want to ask you about the Wizards' ties as a local basketball guy in a second and as a head coach of a local program. But on Cam as a player, I'm just going to repeat the line that Zach Lowe used because I thought it's humorous in its own way. But he's like, Cam's decision tree right now is like, have ball, yes, okay, then shoot. And obviously in the NBA, in some ways that's simpler. Like we don't have to play make, we don't have to do anything else. But you want to be able to round out that part of your game to become the best version of yourself as a player. Scoring is very valuable, but the more you can do, the better. So as Cam gets here to DC, starts working with Brian Keefe and that staff, when you talk about that untapped potential, what are some of the things that you think Cam can add offensively? And what do you think his potential is as a defender at the NBA level?
I think he can defend. I think, watching, I was able to catch a couple of games. I think his help-side defense and his rotations, whatever their scheme is, whatever the Wizards want to do defensively, I think Cam will be bought in. I think he can defend on the perimeter. I think he can also defend bigger guys because of his strength. I think that's a strength of his as well. But it really comes down to what their principles are as far as, stopping ball, rotations, how help side is, who they, doubling, things like that. I think, but, he's got a high IQ. I think he can be a really good defender. I think he can be a great rebounder and a guy that can, start the transition, and be a playmaker, not just a finisher around the basket, if that makes sense.
For sure.
You watch some of his highlights. With the Rockets, it's all dunks and things like that, but he can shoot the three. He can pull up and hit the mid-range shot. He's going to be playing with young guys. So, he's going to have an opportunity to play with those guys and really grow. You got a guy like Sarr that can block shots, things like that. So, you got some help rebounding. You got some long athleticism. So I think he fits in perfect there. Offensively, selfishly, I'd love to see him push the ball more. I'd love to see him, create for other people, which he's more than capable of doing. At the high school level, let's be real. Like he was the best player on the court every time we played, right? So he was able to cheat a little bit. As you are in the professional business now, you have to, you got to really be on your P's and Q's because you got guys that have been in the league for a long time that have a lot of experience. So, I think he can be a tremendous player for the Wizards, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I think he fits in a really interesting place in their plethora of skill sets because he and now Trey Johnson are the two guys that I think are much more offensive minded than a lot of the defense first guys that they've taken the past couple of years. So I'm very curious to see kind of who handles the ball. Obviously, they have some of the vets around, like C.J. McCollum as well. So I think we'll get a chance to see those opportunities. Last thing for Josh Pratt, the head coach of Archbishop Spalding boys basketball, had Cam Whitmore, as we've been talking about here for the last 10 minutes or so, in high school at Spalding. But Josh, just more generally, you mentioned your own personal history with the Wizards, being a ball boy back in '89, and a guy who's a huge Wizards fan. And as a high school coach in this area, like, do you have a connection at this point with Monumental basketball? I know it's something they're working on, and I know like Brian Keefe did a big coaches clinic last year. That was kind of a new thing. I know that as Will Dawkins and Michael Winger and that whole front office crew has gotten more acclimated to the area. They are trying to connect more with the basketball scene in the DMV. I'm just curious, as a guy who is either on the receiving end of that or hopes to be, I'm sure, have you started to feel that yet?
Oh, I would love to be. I would love to check out if I'm going to answer the question correctly. Like, I would love to be a part. Like, I'd love to come to a practice and watch and things like that. Capitol Hoops, Mark Stern, has invited us to the Wizards. I guess there's a showcase event sponsored by the Wizards, January 11th. We'll be out there for that. I've got a couple of young prospects that are rising, sophomores that are, currently ranked in the country, that I think potentially, could be high major Division I players. So, like, I've been there. I'm going into my 7th year. We've really changed the program around. I think we're known for basketball besides other sports. But to answer your question, I think I would love to, honestly, I would love to come down and watch a practice and learn and things like that. I mean, I think as a high school coach, I've been doing this for 30 years now. I would love to learn. Once you stop learning, you should probably stop coaching, right? So,
100%.
Yeah, I would love to sit in a practice. Man, are you kidding? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what that looks like. I know it's something that they've talked about mattering to them, and it should. Like, DMV basketball is important in the basketball world, and the Wizards, as the professional NBA team here, are obviously an essential cog in that wheel, and I'm curious to see how that continues to grow the longer this staff is in place. Josh, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much, and hopefully we'll catch you at some point down the line, and good luck as you get your summer program going and ultimately work into the fall.
I really appreciate it. One last thing. You got two Baltimore Catholic League players playing on the Wizards, Bob Carrington and Cam Whitmore. So that speaks volumes about our league. Our Baltimore Catholic League is one of the best in the country. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh Pratt, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Again, the head coach at Archbishop Spalding. When we get back, not that, we're going to talk about football play calling and why the Commanders have thrived in a way that many other teams have struggled with over the years because of the limitations of how they do business and how Cliff Kingsbury's overcome it. That's next, but first, the latest from the world of women's sports, presented to you by Wawa. Chicken how you want it. Wawa, with customizable roasted or crispy chicken sandwiches. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. All right, all those places. You can also find the Take Command podcast. Logan and I got a great mailbag question about play calling, and that's where we started things on our latest episode, and we wanted to let you hear it here on the radio.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulson and former Commanders reporter Craig Hoffman.
What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. Take Command podcast here on a Tuesday morning. Logan Paulson there. Craig Hoffman here. Excited to answer more of your getting a lot of questions these days, Logan. A lot of good ones coming in. HoffmanShow.com, on Instagram, Hoffman.sports. You got some at Logan_Paulson82. That's where folks get them in. And we got some related bangers to start here. We actually had trouble separating these out into kind of two separate buckets, but we're going to do our best here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited. These are some kind of fun technical questions, and it's always fun to kind of think about these. Be like, why is the NFL the way it is? And these questions kind of illuminate some of that.
Questions on AI and on like cash flow in the NFL. We're gonna try to get some good guests on those because like I know some of I'd like to get a better answer. So if those questions are ones that you asked or that interest you, know those answers are fully coming if we can get the right people on to talk about it. To talk about AI and the Kendall from The Athletic, who wrote a really good story on it. So if you in the Hoffman Show podcast, anywhere you listen to this show or on my YouTube channel, Hoffman, you can do that. But we start off with this question. It says, sup, I always love a good sup. Sup, Craig and Logan. First off, big fan of the Take Command Show and other content you create. Question about the recent topic on offensive play calling. And by the way, this is from Kevin on Instagram. What, if any, advantage is there to super complex, lengthy balls from the offensive side? Why not just have plays? Seems like it saves time and allows for less error in communication. I understand the need for audibles at the line and things like that, but seems like that could be pretty simple and short too. I don't get why coaches would put unnecessary pressure on an offense/quarterback to learn a super complex play call when it just seems to when to me it just seems unnecessary. Would love any insight you both have here. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. This is a really good question, and I think it kind of goes to just offensive philosophy and like kind of I think one of the major differences, quite frankly, with college and NFL football. And so let's just start like with the beginning of that question, and then we can kind of get into some of the other elements. Like a long play call allows for a couple of things. One, it allows for formational diversity. It allows you to kind of designate who personnel-wise is in the field, who is a certain spot on the field. So like, you know, example is when I was in Atlanta, it's like we want Julio to be at the F. So we had a tag word at the beginning. It would be like 11 F, and then it was the formation, like double right, whatever. And so again, like that's adding verbiage because it gives us flexibility, you know. And I do think that's something that you're always negotiating. Color as a coordinator, and in any offense you're constructing is another great example. It's like Harbaugh's system. Like they had this thing called like a perfect play essentially. So they'd get to the line of scrimmage and play called, and basically it was 3 cans based on the front and how it was spaced, right? And so that's the words.
And just real quick, for anyone, and means you have, I know a lot of you know this, but if you don't, and it's just a second, or in this case, a second and a third. So if you hear the quarterback in the line of scrimmage going can, their second play they called in the huddle, or third play they called in the huddle. And so the quarterback gets to the line. Yeah, they have different verbiage to get to that third play. But think about it. Like if I want to add a motion, like I need a word in there. Like I could just be like, you know, everyone talks about how the NFL is so diverse in terms of motions and formations. Like that's verbiage. I mean, all verbiage. So like a great example, like a simple example would be like, let's take the Julio example. Let's go Julio at F, right? Let's go Julio 11 F, right? That's the personnel we're in, right? So that tells everybody on the field F, right, F short. Let's go protection. Now we got to tell the offensive line what to do in terms of protection. 3 jet, F choice, and we want to tag something on the backside. Let's say Y cat, right? So most concepts are half field reads. So choice is a 2-man concept. Cat
two-man concept, right? There's very rarely that it's a full field progression. It's often installed that way. Like if we don't say anything on the backside of choice, like you're going to run this. But again, like I don't like that versus cover 4. And this team runs a lot of cover 4, and I need a different backside concept, right? Or I need a concept that's going to come into the quarterback's vision. So just that simple play, like guys running a choice, outside guys running to go. We want to short motion, adjust the coverage a little bit. Like it becomes kind of complicated, right? And so in the NFL, you have the flexibility of time in terms of detailing all of these different rules. But I think, again, I started the conversation by saying it's an offensive philosophy thing. So there are advantages to that. Like long play calls slow the offense down. There's a lot of things. And again, it gives you as a play caller more flexibility. It lets you be the marionette or the puppet master of the offense in a way that if it was more simple, it doesn't. But we'll talk about the advantages of smaller verbiage later. But I think like as of right now, like think long verbiage, more diversity, more flexibility with the play call. And that's where you get these crazy like paragraph calls. And honestly, why in the NFL it's so important that the quarterback has a mastery of the offense.
Right.
Because it's a great story about Drew Brees. They used to play a game Friday night walkthrough where the coordinator would say the personnel. Hey, 13 personnel, Devery Henderson, whatever. 3 plays out of there, and Drew Brees could recite all 3 memory, no script. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how detailed these are. And it does a lot on the quarterback. That's why those older offenses with Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, those guys had a lot on weight because of the verbiage they were able to digest and how they were able to own that verbiage. But again, it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can get to.
For sure. The best it described is like offensive football is like learning a language. And so, you know, while the word seems silly to those of us who have never played NFL football, like they actually make sense. Like you probably still told a West Coast like Shanahan, Sean McVay tree of plays, and even if it's one you didn't necessarily baseline, draw it up. You might not know all the finer points of the install, how to bend a certain route. I mean, you probably figured it smart. But like you could probably be like, oh, we never had that in our offense. Words mean, and so you figure it out. And so the mastery of the language for not just the quarterback, but for everyone involved becomes really, really, really important. But if you speak the language, it can work. On the other, if you are using shorter play calls, are there advantages that we'll get to? Yes. But on a baseline, you've actually switched kind of what it is. It now is a game of memorization. You know, when I say peach, like you know what it is. Like you know what that piece of fruit looks like in the world. I don't have to explain. It's like kind of a little oddly still delicious as long as it's ripe. It's a stone fruit. Like I don't have to explain what a peach is. Oh, it's peach because you learned what a peach is when you were 2 years old or whatever we were, however old we are when we learn what fruits are. And so if you are learning an offense and you have a play called peach, you have to remember exactly what peach is. You have to remember the motion. You have to remember the formation. You have to remember everything. And there are teams, I know kind of at the peak of the Patriots offenses, they went down in certain packages to one-word play calls. And everyone had to know, hey, if we call circus, you better know what circus is, as opposed to having a play call that is long, verbose, but descriptive. And that's actually what circus is. It just takes 4 times as long to call.
Absolutely. Being one of the things that I'm really appreciative of is obviously playing in the NFL, playing in college, and now install offenses, and you see the benefits and the drawbacks of both systems. Like I think I'm more familiar with the more verbose systems. Like that's like kind of a characteristic of a West Coast offense. It's why you see motions. It's why you see these shifts and different formations and different alignments and all these different things, right? Because they have all, and like, you know, for example, a great example of this is like Kyle Shanahan, you know, everyone thinks outside zone, right? 18, 19 outside zone, the running backs attacking the outside leg of the play side tight end. But you have probably 10 ways to run quote unquote outside zone. And the reason you can do that is because support means something different than Zorro, and Zap means something different than Zorro, and Zeus means something different than Zap. And, you know, and you just kind of go down the list. All of a sudden you're at, you're at 5 versions of outside zones that each one contains different flexibility to in different ways to block difference. And again, like how much of that do you in the NFL? You can do it, right? It helps. It's helpful. Like if they're in a 3-4, shoot, I don't want to run straight 18 because the tight end going to be in a single block by himself. But if I say 18 Zorro and I'm going to give him help from the fullback, like I like that play much better because we get a great double team on the 4-eye. Like that, I've created angles for myself, and that's so the verbiage helps. If I'm trying, and this is understanding the simplicity, I think is helpful as a point of juxtaposition. So let's say I want to fast, and I just want to call 18, right? And know that aligns with a certain formation. Let's say it aligns with double right, and it's 18. I can get to the ball quickly and everyone's set, and before everyone's lined up, I can just let that thing rip. The problem is like you get bad sometimes, you get bad matchups, and there are, again, the speed is important, the dexterity is important, the confidence is important, because like that's another thing you're always negotiating, installing an offense is as the verbiage goes up, it becomes overwhelming for people. Like even at the NFL level, I remember going into game plans with Kyle where he'd have a long play call, he'd have a can and an Oscar. Like, so that's 3 plays, right? So, is he saying can? Is he saying Oscar? Now what am I doing? And it really adds a lot of mental gymnastics. Because not only are you thinking about the play, but you're thinking about the defense. Now, like if you look at a good example of like one-word play calls, like they read 11. That is the formation protection, and 10 is the, like that's it. That's what we're doing, and it allows you to play really fast, and then it allows you, because the play volume is low, to make individual adjustments in that route concept. So let's say 10 is like a double post, right? I'm going to run. That's what we're running. We're not changing anything. We can't get to different formations, can't get to different shifts. Like that's how we got to run it. I got to know how to run that versus cover 3, versus quarters, versus cover 2. But because the play volume's low and the play call is short, now I have to add flexibility in terms of how we run on different coverages. The guys got to know more in that way. And also they have to know the adjustments individually based on these things the defense are presenting. So I think there are pros and cons to both. And you kind of walk that razor's edge as much as possible. Like I remember with Kyle, he had an Apache packet, which was kind of like 2-minute, but not, where it's like kind of like what you're describing. It's like formation and one word, and then everybody knew what the play was, right? There was no, it was like, hey, bunch right, and then it was Zorro, and you knew that out of that look. And that really let us play fast and shrunk the play call. But you'd run into battle just kind of hoping that, hey, even though this is the best look, the speed of us being here is going to affect the defense, and we're going to get a positive play.
So let's try to give an example here. We're like in our playbook that is now one play wide that you just said. And if we're using air raid language, it is double right, double post, right?
Yeah.
Formation right.
That's not actually the air raid play, but yeah, just for this.
Yeah, just because I'm just trying to be consistent rather than trying to do whatever. But right, so red tells us not only is it double right, but it's, let's say it's 2-jet protect. I don't even know if that makes sense, but sure. Say that, so we know formation and protection, and then we have that play call sound in West Coast lingo.
Yeah, so West Coast lingo, like double right, it's red, so I'm assuming it's right, and then be 3-jet because you want the back and run a check burst away from the concept. So 3-jet, and then you'd say
3-jet
Skinner, and then you'd have another like maybe drive, or maybe what would you tag with Skinner? Hurricane, something like that. So or Zeus, something like on the other side where it's like a corner flat, or a corner across the field, so the posts, you're clearing everything out away. But again, like in the air raid, it's a full field concept. You can't tag the backside concept anything differently. It's just going to be receivers know exactly what to do. Here, I have the flexibility, but like maybe I want to call drive, maybe I want to call Zorro or Zeus or not Zeus, a Hurricane, right? Whatever that looks like on the backside there. And
so just again to way oversimplify, we have 2 posts on the right side of the formation.
Sure.
That's the kind of that is Skinner. That's the concept in the West Coast. And on the left side, not like they're running 2 posts as well, because then they all just run into each other at 25 yards. So we have to figure out what that. And in the West Coast, we have the flexibility to change that versus in the call it. Maybe we do have that, but we have to call it something completely different. So now, while the play calls are shorter, we need more play calls to get to more stuff versus being able to just break off little pieces of the play call.
Yeah, and I think you saw that. Like when I was learning a little bit about Ron's offense, which is the digit, which is the numbers offense, right?
Yeah.
Digits is like, it's like 787. That's like 7s are corners, 8s opposed.
Yeah,
7s
9.
are
That's
corners.
when you've heard 9 route go. That's what that is from. What is that? The Air Coryell system that
Yeah,
Scott
Air
Turner
Coryell.
and North Turner and all them run.
That's right. So, and one of the things in there is like you're limited by the digits. And so you can only get to so many different combinations. And so they kind of bastardized it. They still use the numbers, but then they tagged the concept something different. So they kind of like went from Air Coryell into West Coast verbiage. And I think in the NFL, more flexibility, the better. But like that's something I'm interested to see how does it, right? Because they seem to have a lot of diversity and a lot of flexibility, right? But either everyone's really smart and they've memorized. So for example, an easy way to do this from an offensive standpoint would be like, let's just take it like I'll go, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go in 2x2, you're just running straight up the field, right?
Right.
But if I'll go and trips, like the inside most receiver of the trips needs to get across the field, then maybe I can go like trips bunch, right? I'll go. I need to now memorize as a player, like point guys across the ball, outside guys running to the numbers, and then the inside guys up the seam, right? So you can get like you're talking about, you can get to some more stuff with simple verbiage based on formations, but you increase the amount of memorization. You know what I mean? So that's where it's a little bit more challenging. And again, like I kind of always clutch my pearls with limited verbiage because I want, as a play caller, as an offensive player, I have flexibility. I want to be able, it's going to get us into the best look possible, right? And that's sometimes, and ultimately you got to remind yourself that the players got to play. They have to play. And so if they're not comfortable with the check with me, whatever, and Kyle would always, I've said this on the show before, it was always great. We had too much in last week. We got to pare it down so you guys faster. And that's always the line you're walking with that verbiage thing is like, is there too much verbiage in here? Is there too much offense in? How much do I need to pare it back? Where's that sweet spot of and dexterity in terms of speed? And that's always something I find is really fascinating about, and it depends on the guys you got, depends on your coordinator, depends on the quarterback. And I think that's something interesting here with Cliff is that the verbiage, I think, is kind of an amalgamation, I would assume, but it kind of fits what Jaden did in college, which was simple. It's a simple, fast, spread-ish type offense. So I think it's probably a mix of.
Yeah, it kind of leaves me with a couple of thoughts to wrap here. First and foremost, like, this is why your ability to be a teacher as a coach is so important.
Oh my God.
Because if you can create not just if it stops being memorization and it starts being understanding, then it's like, oh, the point guy has to be here, the outside guy has to be here. Because understanding, and if you understand and execute it more, because you would never do, like, there's sometimes that coaches watch players do stuff and it's like, why would you do that? Because I didn't remember what I was supposed to do and I had no understanding on what, like, why I'm doing that thing. I thought I was supposed to run here and I was supposed to run there. And it's like, well, why would you do that? It's like, because that's what I thought. Like, I didn't understand, right? And so someone like Cliff does an excellent job of being like, not only do we want you to be here, we want you to be here because we're trying to accomplish. And if you have that, one, you can make in-game adjustments as a player because some defense does wacky stuff. And if you need to pull a defender somewhere and you need to bend a route to like kind of attract that guy's attention, or like you need to be a football player. It arms you with the knowledge to be a player.
It becomes
so that
like
is super important.
Living, breathing thing. And that's
100%.
ultimately like the best offenses I played for, you know, like the third year under Kyle, like, or the, 2012, like is I knew in game, right? Like, hey, we're running power. And it's because I had a lot of reps at it. Run power, for example, I'm the wing and looks like the guy's going to crash, but he doesn't. And then I track to the linebacker and I knew based on different patterns and shapes, and we'd run power so much that I knew exactly what to do. Like if this guy did this, I did this. And I could make those correct, having conversations with coaches and then be like, this is, as a coach, like what you're looking for is like, you don't have to come to the sideline and get this fixed. Like we can call again and we're going to be right. And so that's, again, like I think of the stuff I read last year when we kind of did the Cliff like air raid presentation, is that thing became a living, breathing organism. Everybody knew the adjustment. Like when you have tight verbiage, you have to do a lot to get there, as opposed to where I can kind of remind you, hey, in bunch, it's all go slow, right? We got to get that guy across the field. He's got a special route as opposed to just straight all go. that's where it just depends on how you coach it, really. And I think like you said, being a teacher is extremely important.
So if you can get the small verbiage, but like it's a smaller amount, but the higher level of mastery, that can be highly effective. The thing is, like, I think part of where like defensively and this excelled was it didn't need some of the variance because, like you talk about running into bad luck. Defense's playbook shrank because of the tempo. And we've talked about that before, so we don't need to get into it again now. Otherwise, we'll answer on this mailbag episode. Talk about it for another 20 minutes. But like, it's important to remember that these things don't, it's not just about the verbiage.
Correct.
It's what the verbiage allows you to do, the pace at which you play, the speed at which the players, and the pace of play has some dictation, which slims the look. So what you're going to, and that way you're just as likely to be right as that. Okay, the defense has their old playbook, but we have more options in ours to be right. It's limiting the guessing game on some level as well.
No, absolutely. And again, it just depends on what you want to be and how you want to get there, what you feel comfortable with. And both are effective. You just got to coach the heck out of both.
Yeah, for sure. And have good players, which also tends to help things. Wrapping up here on the Hoffman Show. First and foremost, it is like, Anthony, I've been in hurricanes before, tropical storms. That's what it looks like outside.
It's ugly.
So please, like, if you're like, man, this is crazy, I should pull over. It's okay. We'll keep you entertained for another few minutes. Getting there is more important than getting there at the time you were planning on getting there. So I think Anthony and I are gonna hang out for a little bit because we ain't walking to our cars, and driving feels stupid right now. If you're in the DC, at least downtown, at least where we are in Navy Yard. So if the weather is like that where you are around the DMV, there's a severe thunderstorm warning, and please be smart, be careful. It is absolutely bananas outside right now. As for entertaining you, tomorrow on the show, never read the comments. We have a fresh episode of Take Command. Our guy Dan Pizzuta, that was with us all season long, on Thursdays nonetheless. DP is going to join Logan and I to talk about not only analytics and data and AI in football, which is a mailbag question that we got that we were like, I feel like we should ask someone smarter than us. And Dan was the first person that came to mind for some of his background and some of the things that he's done. But then when I texted him, he actually told me he has written the Commanders chapter of the Football Outsiders Almanac this year. So he is super locked in and did a bunch of homework on the Commanders. So we will talk Commanders with him as well. Some other stuff that we got, but we're running out of time, and I've been waiting to play this for 3 days. So time for real things. Come on, computer.
Real things.
We're not going to be so this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, Paddy Pimblett is an English, he's from Liverpool, MMA fighter, and he met Raiders tackle Colton Miller. Paddy's not a large man. Colton is. This is how that went.
Hard you are. Big Montana fella. How are we?
You good?
I'd hate to get barred by you, lad. Jesus. The size of this fella. Hey, the size of this fella. Big ass hands, them as well, aren't they? Hell, I'd hate to get run over by him, lad.
Yeah.
Are you like the average size for an NFL player as well? Because you are
No,
one.
I'm probably like the max. Like, there's probably like me and like 2 other guys. I'm like pretty tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6'8". Yeah.
And you're wide.
Yeah,
Got
325.
big ass
yeah.
shoulders. What you weigh?
325.
325.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I thought I was heavy.
Well, great to meet you, man.
You know that fella, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, lad, his hands just absolutely swallowed, man.
I mean, perfect. No notes. Oh, look at the size of that fella. I mean, if I met Colton Miller, that'd probably have the same reaction.
Man, some of those dudes really are massive as hell.
Who's the biggest dude you ever met?
The biggest dude I've ever met. So, all right, so I will tell you this, Craig. So we have a lineman at Georgetown Prep. His name is Emmanuel Iheanacho. Have you not seen this? Last week, he went on the Pat McAfee show and committed to Oregon. And, like, he's top 5, like, top 3 player in his class. You haven't seen any of this?
No.
So I showed you the kid from Georgetown Prep.
Yeah, you
the
showed
running
me the
back.
running back who's
But
like,
yeah, now,
looks like he's
so last week we
NFL
also had him.
14.
But he's 6'7", Craig, 385.
That counts. That'll do. That'll work. I think my answer is probably Ty Nsekhe. Javon Kinlaw is not as tall, but that man's legs are the size of a house. All right, we'll be back tomorrow for